Jason here. Now, I'm going to go over another version of the Kleptsy trap. The main components here, we have a stick. This one was straight, but kind of got warped during some of my testing. You're going to have two of these sticks, and on the ends, you need to cut out a little bit of them, kind of making a flat edge on both ends of your sticks, on two of them. Then you have two tension sticks. I find it's important that your tensioning sticks, or tension bars, are larger in diameter than the other two arms that you have, because it gives it more area whenever you connect them, because the way they're going to go together is like this. They're going to marry together like that. So the main idea is you're going to put these together this way, two up there, two back here, okay? And then you're going to have an arm that you wind up like you do the the regular standing Kleptsy traps, and it's going to come down like that, kind of like a modified mouse trap, if you would. When you put these two pieces together, or these four pieces together, what I do is I like to start with one side and wrap string around these so that it goes under and over the stick. And what that's going to do is that's going to keep this in place, and I'll explain that later. Now, that's the components of the actual trap itself, or the actual, I guess, frame of the trap. Then you have a swing arm. Now this is the piece that you would put a spike in. I haven't put a spike in it, but it's the piece that you would put a spike in. What you need to do on this stick is make sure that it's short enough that it will go in between everything when you're finished. But you might want to kind of shave this down, slowly going into an angle, and make sure that you cut it off so that you have this 90-degree angle ledge right here, so that it won't pull through your string. I'll explain why you do that later on in the video. Then you're going to want to just pick a side, any side, and on that side you want to shave it up a little bit and cut you another flat edge right here, and this is going to be for your trigger system. It's going to kind of hold it. Now you can work with this, and I suggest that you don't cut this part until you put the trap together and you have an idea of how big of a trigger you want. So that's another piece that needs to be cut here. And of course, if you were putting a spike on this, rotate this stick in 180 degrees and put you a little point right here, kind of comes up and sticks out. For the trigger mechanism, what you'll want to do is just make a promontory peg, something that'll fit, and I'll show you how that should fit at the end of the video. With that, and this trap is meant to take out nothing larger than a squirrel. You can obviously make this trap larger to take larger animals, but you don't really need to go too much bigger than this. In fact, you could probably make this a lot smaller, about mousetrap size, because that's what this is in effect, is a mousetrap. So I'm going to start assembling this and show you how this thing works. Okay, so now I'll get the frame built. I wasn't going to put that all together in camera. And now I'm ready to put my twine together. Now this is just cheap 15-pound twine. It's not bank line, but this will work for sure on this trap. I cut off about a 3-foot section of it, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a loop with a bite on one end, and I'm going to pick the trap up and bring some through there. And now I've got my bite here and the end of my string here. And you're basically going to make a girth hitch. And the reason why you want to make a girth hitch is because you can pull it tight, making a 2-to-1 ratio, basically making it real tight, because you want this string to be snug. If you just tied a regular knot, it wouldn't be very snug, and it wouldn't have as much power as if you really bring some tension on this string. So I like to pull my actual girth right here. I like to bring it all the way to the end of one of the sticks so it's not in the center. As you can see right here, that's where my bite is down here. This is my running end. And then I'm going to pull it, not too tight, but tight enough. And this is very important once you pull it tight, to take your thumb and pinch your thumb right there. Where it wraps right here, goes down and up and around through the bite and back up. When you pull it down, if you just wedge your finger right here at this loop, you can take all your pressure off and work with this hand again. Now, I'm going to go around it, making one simple loop, and then come through this middle and pull it against itself in the opposite direction. Come back up through the middle again in the opposite direction, pull up. Now this is going to make it tight. It's not going to go anywhere, and when I'm finished, I can simply just unravel it and I've got my string right back in my hands. After I've done that, I'm going to take my peg that we made earlier. It's there allowing me to wind it. And then I'm just simply going to put it in here and wind it up. So I'll get that one up. I'll come back when it's wound. Real quick before I wind this thing up. Sometimes you might end up getting it built and it's just a little off. This can be frustrating because it may take you a while to try and straighten all your edges out in order to make it nice and flat again. As you can see, it's real wobbly and it's got that twist and torque to it. When I start tightening down the springing system with the cordage, it'll just and fall apart. Which is the reason why I put pieces of paracord string right here on the ends, because that'll keep these two pieces of wood from just popping out and flying off once you put it under pressure. But the way that you can fix this twist and turning is look at your ends. Okay, so I can tell that this one here is straight, that the one down here is straight, and this one down here is straight, and the one that's off is right here. So what I might want to do is straighten this up to where it's squared again, and then take a piece of wood that I knocked off while I was working, while building it, and wedge that piece of wood right down in there in that space. I might actually want to torque it in the opposite direction just a bit so it'll fit in there snug. And now it's straight. So that's a trick and tip when putting this together, so you don't get too frustrated, because I know I was frustrated putting this together. Okay, so now that I've wound up the trap, I'm going to kind of explain a few of the working parts here. As you can see, the trap is strong enough to almost flip this. So now I've got it back almost squared up. Now, the reason that we shaved this down and put a lip right there is so that whenever we get to this point, sorry about that, you can pull this peg back and forth. If there's bark on there, you can't do that. And the reason you want to do that is so that you can stop it on itself, so that it actually will stop right there. So now we're going to set it up. What I have is a promontory peg. This seems to be the best method to pull this off. Now, with cordage powered traps, I believe that the further around the trap is, the better, because it builds its momentum from this point to this point. So if I stop it here with a promontory peg, it doesn't have as much momentum as if I stopped it here with a promontory peg, and it has to go over all the way around. You can hear the difference there. So what I have is a promontory peg, and as I showed you earlier, we made ourselves a notch, a flat area with a notch or a catch for a reason on the swing arm, and that's for this promontory peg. Now this trap doesn't seem to set really easily. It's not a very hair trigger of a trap, which is one thing I don't like about it, because you're going after small animals such as rodents and squirrels, you know, rats, squirrels. You're not going to catch a really big animal with this trap. It's possible if an animal hit it just right, and if your spike was large enough, yeah, you could probably end up with a larger animal, but I don't really think so. I play with my promontory peg. I know that if I turn it in this direction, it sets every time. Now, there's a little bit of a gap right here. I don't think my camera's going to pick that up too well. And then I have, right now it's a matchstick, but you could obviously build this out of a regular twig, but it is shaped somewhat like a wedge, kind of getting sharper towards the point. The reason for that is what you want to do is you want to insert that in between your two stakes on your promontory peg. This is going to make it even more sensitive, and this is where you're going to put your bait. So that when the animal starts pulling on that bait, they will set the trap a lot more efficiently. If they push down on the bait, they will break apart the wood. If they pull, or if they push, they will push them away from each other. So using a trigger stick inside of a promontory peg is a very effective way of making a promontory peg even more sensitive. So I'm going to set that up, pull this back, and then I'm going to just basically wedge it in there against that flat section, and I'm going to play with it until I get it stuck. So now I'm going to show you a view of this. So you've got your bait stick here, your trigger stick down here, which is a promontory peg, your swing arm, which I could have put a spike up here, but I didn't because I've popped my fingers a few times with this, so I'll be honest about that. So what would happen is the animal would come along, and they would, like I said, they would hit this bait stick when it's built this way, and the animal comes up, they kind of lick it and play with it a bit, and boom, it snaps. Reach over here, put this together again real quickly, show you a different angle. So as you can see, it's a simple trap. It's not as easy to make as one would think, but it's a trap that you can take with you. Simply undo your twine and then throw it on your bag or on your pack and take it with you to the next place. So it's definitely a mobile trap. Like I said, because of the wedge right here, you've got to play with this promontory peg a bit to get this angle just right. Now I've got my hand here blocking my swing arm, and once I feel that resistance is gone, then I take the trap off. So once again, rat, squirrel, whatever comes along, hits this bait stick, starts chewing on the food, and boom, snaps it pretty good. After I played around with this a bit, I was actually breaking lead pencils with it. So there you go. It's another cordage powered trap, variation of the Kleptsy trap. If I'm not mistaken, this is actually closer to the original Kleptsy trap. Laying Kleptsy traps were the original style. So there you go, guys. Pretty simple trap. Takes a little bit of carving, whittling, and working, but it's well worth it because it's a one trap that you can take with you. So, thanks guys.